Hello, welcome to Story Time. My name is Rosemary, and I'm here today with Chris, a beautiful soul that
Hey there.
is here. And would you like to introduce yourself? And what is your? I'm going to ask a question to start off with: is what was your biggest defining moment in awakening spiritually?
All right. Well, first, I'm Chris, everybody. Going back to when I was born, I too had a near death experience. I'm sure your listeners have heard you mention that. I had a near death experience at 18 months old, and I certainly have felt anointed. I was told that when I was younger, the term anointed, which my name is Christopher. It means Christ bearer, and chrism in Greek means anointed, the unction of the Spirit. Um, I admittedly going to like a big defining moment as an adult in my adult life, actually grown up, sadly would have been the loss of my second son. After all the things I'd already been through, all the things I'd been rebelling against in life, conspiring against every dang thing happening to me, after the loss of my second son, it really was the biggest awakening for me. Like it really brought me home.
I get it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the past required is the past required, and we as a world even have been dealing with this injustice trauma, this collective PTSD and imposter syndrome. Everybody's story is so different. I don't think anybody would necessarily want to trade what they've been through for losing two of their children if they've had any. But then again, I don't need the physical body. I gave up the physical forms so long ago, and the way I'm guided from the astral realms is astounding at times. Sometimes, um, we could run a mental exercise on what we'd be willing to give up for God, but then it comes to like I don't even need my breath or my body anymore. So let's do this thing.
I would think that God wouldn't ask you to give up anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I
this life
know.
is beautiful, but yes, and
It's
even
amazing. I know, but that's part of the shadow work process that one goes through if they're willing
yes.
to know. Yeah, it's intense.
I mean, how would you? For me, I know shadow work. It's more of the acceptance. Okay, these things happen. These traumas happen. This,
Mm.
and what did we learn? Like for me, I take it as it's like Back to the Future. If I change one little thing, it will just domino everything else. I would not end up where I'm
See, and
at.
look at men's imaginations. We always imagine time travel as if they would go back and kill Hitler is the big example. Like the past required is the past required. If you didn't have your basis for understanding, you wouldn't be able to have that shadow from which to propel your light forward. Like if light's repelling off a light, then it's just one big old whitewashed model, which we've all probably seen when we've climbed the astral plane. Like, oh, all these pretty things I'm seeing. Oh, let's just whitewash it and get you back in your body.
Right. And
Right.
firm believer of full spectrum, which would be again that goes with your name, Chris, which is Christ or crystal. Again, the crystal. If you're shining a white light through, which is all light, it's all everything there, the whole
Right.
thing. So that would be even including all the dark. So being full spectrum would be okay. Yeah, these are
Mm.
darker things that happened. I may not have been a great person at this point in time, but that is part of who I am.
Mm.
And
I felt definitely, I had recurring dreams of like memories of what felt like eons in darkness, which the most resonant text I found on the matter is like the Divine Pymander stuff, where truly I had the memories before, it feels like, but like I said, then after reading, it's like, oh, that is really resonant. Like the way that God would have you try to hold this form in your mind and go from there, like descending to the depths of Kemet or whatever in the halls of a mentee and the full. If those things are actually pretty useful tools, honestly.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so okay, when you're what I'm just going to ask about your, um, what is your passion that drives you? What are you very passionate about?
My passion, as I was planetary gnosis. It's hard to sum up. It's like, oh, you're an artist, but you don't want any gains, or like this, that, or what are we doing here? I'm like, well, no, you couldn't offer me the key to the kingdom in any form. Like, I've seen the vanity of that. But yes, a planetary gnosis, because and you're a painter. Et in Arcadia ego. Death also exists in Arcadia. This is an old pastoral saying or whatever. I forget the roots, Italian and Latin. Et in Arcadia ego. It means death also exists here. And I know I'm just dust and dirt and breath, embodiment of spirit reassembled. There's no real kingdom I could go hope to build, or like fortune to stack up. But I say we because I am fully aware that we have a common goal in this matter. Even the people who are unaware have the same common goal of a planetary gnosis.
Yes.
I've seen so many intelligent minds become agnostic or get lost in conspiracy theory. And I'm like, without the faith in spirit, like, where are we going? And you've heard me with the wordplay, and maybe I could just go through it now in the podcast.
You can. It's up to you.
All righty. So this morning, going with the flow, with the synchronicity, I opened a New International Version Bible to Isaiah 52:13, and I'm just going to read it. See, my servant will act wisely. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. Just as there were many who were appalled at him, his appearance was so disfigured beyond that of any human being, and his form marred beyond human likeness. So he will sprinkle many nations, and kings will shut their mouths because of him. For what they were not told, they will see, and what they have not heard, they will understand. And now I don't mean by any means to say this is myself or nothing. I'm just a vessel here, just sharing my perceptions to stimuli. What really stood out in me in that verse was the bodily disfigurement and sprinkle many nations. It also says act wisely. Now, going to the King James Version, behold, my servant shall deal prudently rather than act wisely. He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. As many were astonied at thee, his visage. So rather than body, it says visage, face of a clock, countenance. Hey, there we go. Was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. So shall he sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths at him, for that which had not been told them shall they see, and that which they had not heard shall they consider. So what stands out in the New International Version is it recommends to go back to the Septuagint, which anybody who's never been through the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Vulgate, Masoretic texts, Septuagint and stuff like that, books of Enoch, they're absolutely worth it.
Yes.
The Septuagint being truly the earliest form of the Bible, written by the Hebrews in Greek, the 72. Oh, I'm going to butcher the history. Dang it. They were meaning to share the word with other Jews at the time. It would have actually predated Christ at the time. It actually speaks on in the Septuagint. If I could tangent real quickly, it speaks on Daniel beating Bel and the dragon before the lions, which is just fascinating stuff if you're a fan of what Daniel did in the Bible. But to go to the Septuagint, because sprinkle had really stuck out to me. And I wanted to see, because it recommends that it means amazed at. And so in the Septuagint, behold, my servant shall understand and be exalted and glorified exceedingly. As many shall be amazed at thee, so shall thy face be without glory from men, and thy glory shall not be honored by the sons of men. Thus shall many nations wonder at him, and kings shall keep their mouths shut, for they to whom no report was brought concerning him shall see, and they who have not heard shall consider. So I wanted to look up in my Strong's Complete Dictionary of Bible Words, sprinkle. I bet this video is going to be so terrible.
No, it's not.
And here we see sprinkle, the Hebrew word zarak, to sprinkle and scatter, or nazah, to splash or sprinkle. So I'm going to look up zarak, Z-A-R-A-Q, zarak, to sprinkle or scatter. And from there, I go back here. Zarak, to sprinkle a fluid or solid particles. That's interesting that they were already having a term for fluid or solid particles. I mean, they didn't mention wave, but at the same time, one wouldn't have noted, spherical atomic forms at the time either. So, our parables didn't say as much at the time. Anyways, but it does mean to be here or there, scatter, or sprinkle, or strew. Also, zarar is similar. It means to sneeze or diffuse, which I love the correlation to the solar sneeze and diffusion of light. And hey, you know what? We're not going to get nobody lost in conspiracies on this one. But I will say, zarar has a root to going away, strangers. It does have a bit of profanity in the priest and prophet notions and men's adulterous imaginings, which, that's always present. So I'm going to bring it back to sprinkle again here. Splash or sprinkle. I know we're going to land on the word, and we're not even going to get to the sprinkle. Nazah, spurt. To spurt or to besprinkle, which I love the word besprinkle. Spurt, though, shows up SPIRT. If that's even, let me pull it up. I did look it up in Google here. And spurt is an archaic form of spurt, right? So spurt, SPIRT, and it even recommends spirit when you look it up in Google. It doesn't want to, so to be amazed at, to sprinkle throughout nations, and it's archaic, as are the archangels. The Ark of the Covenant, the arch is abounding. Spurt, just like the Spirit, which inspires and conspires and respires and aspires and perspires and transpires, expires, perhaps even prospires and despires as prospering and despairing, that Spirit really fills everything. It's so, and I'm just one. Perhaps they could use the word anointed. I'm just an embodiment of Spirit naturally, as we all are. Well, all of our thoughts coming to usward from the same source.
So to help you connect some of the threads, or even just connect it to other pieces, so you're talking about the voice being told, the voice sprinkling Spirit, which again, we just saw waves. We have quantum waves. A lot of people work in a quantum wave particle, but we also have, if you read, when you go through Revelation, as I know people were talking about, and having that voice, the double-edged sword, the voice of God that's supposed to come through the vessel and actually speak Spirit, and every nation shall hear, every eye, everyone shall see it, everyone, even with their eyes closed, would see it, because it is quantum. It is something that is being put in superpositioned. So I mean, you can look at it in even that way. But I also like when you said spires, when you say conspires, if you look at spire as being a pillar. So pillars. So you even can go one step further and have Spirit pillars of light.
Amen.
So yeah, it's just tying some things. Yes.
Right, and it's literally in the words we use, and we've gotten lost in our imaginations. With my daughter, reminds me when I go through these things. Oh, that was men's views on the stuff at the time. Like, it was described as Baal because they were like owning land and women, and like, I'm like, oh yeah, like there's potentially an unforeseen realm between these denotations and connotations. There's no less than one whole another pillar, an entire realm of just like a different way to use the vibratory distortion that I'm not even seeing, because I am thus in love with these word plays and this life, which is through all I've lost. This is not just this stuff, but this is why I'm in love with life still. I don't need like a form. I barely need my form, or like take all this dirt that's been assembled away from me, God, because I literally like, I love to rap and do poetry. I've been doing that for a long time. Awesome. We see where Eminem rhyme has an interesting way of bringing puns out, metaphor and simile, and all these complex word associations as we try to find that rhyme in the search for the rhyme, because we're looking for the Spirit. We're bottling up the Spirit on a page, We're doing it right now on a screen in a podcast. And so rhyme has an interesting way of taking you to crazy, unforeseen realms, which has been great for like Merkaba work, for complex associations of these energy signatures and like aligning a Merkaba. People perceive these signatures, they affect them strongly. We don't need to like rush a stage and kill each other to get to that idol, obviously. But I have in the most recent years, I have happened upon these more like simple forms of like profound insights on the simple words we use.
Yes.
Because I am an artist and God has had to guide me away from the house of Berith and back to the house of Jah, because they both are a creator sensation as defined in the Bible. It's hard to really get into the specifics on that, but Berith has ties with co-creation, and so does Jah as a creator and artistic thing. So I even just saw a post about, oh, here's Beyonce being possessed, and I get all these fake Illuminati profiles come at me. I'm like, we are all the same spirit. Like, you can separate as you wish, but you have to realize that's on you. Like, you're doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I had a preacher at church just Sunday denouncing gay ministers. And then he later on was saying he felt something from the congregation and was offering his altar to find Christ. And I was like, I was just praying internally. I didn't want to bring it up, but I could see that he was projecting that from himself. Because like my living God will not let me just use someone else's altar. I mean, I have when I was younger, following the routines and rituals, but right, when you start to realize the living God, like, come on now.
Yes. Yes, I do. I understand. Yes. And like you were saying, an artist. So, and actually if you can feel free to share any of the poetry, any raps you want within Discord. Again, I have gallery, we have other places for that. It's for a freedom expression of your core self. Once you get down to stripping yourself of everything, like all of these materials, when you get right to your core, and when you're connected to source, you're connected to God that way, that's what gets pushed out. That's what resonates out from you, your creative side.
Yes.
Yoga, and tree pose. Trees are important.
Yeah, I literally have to do yoga. I'm even going to just put my phone down and stretch down to the floor here. Because conversation is not nearly as important as breath.
Correct. We are vibrations. We are the breath, the in and out. So yes. And frequency. So again, and like you were talking about painting, and rapping, and yes, words, vibrational frequency, the written spell, the spoken spell, which is actually spelling with having words. Oh, yes, that's beautiful.
I'm a bit of a pain. I had two better ones, but I only see my daughters about once a year. The legal system, but God does the way He does it. And so I gave my better paintings to my daughters because, I'm not going to sell them. I'd rather give them to my daughters. Same with the music thing. Thank you. I've been giving them all away, and that's what I do anytime I come across some cool crystals or something. I always gift those away too, which I feel is ancient in my DNA. I must have had something back in those Atlantis times to where I was not necessarily polarizing positive with my use of technology and hormones and other things. Many of us, I feel like, but hey, they each have their own little. I wouldn't dare to tell someone what they'd been through.
No.
Yeah.
But again, it's nice that you're sharing some of your story again, with the system and stuff, that there are still some systems, obviously, that are put on us that are kind of keeping people oppressed in that fear-based mode, and shaking people out of that, or at least standing up to it. Okay, light workers. I say, okay, well, yes, you're here as light workers. We are here to spread love and light up everything in the dark. And actually, it's one of the paintings I'm working on. So I'm painting.
On that note.
Yeah.
So, okay, going back to 2017, which was a fairly integral part of some of this, was I remember feeling people describe it as a timeline jump, but I remember having that sensation of okay, I'm tired of being entertained. I'm looking to elevate. Interestingly enough, the Gaia Network and stuff did enter the picture on my screen. From the Gaia Network stemmed certain shows, along with the Galactic Federation and the galacticfederation.com, which, I don't know if you're familiar with companies and entities all around. Interestingly enough, I have found I've seen an inundation into the spiritual and technological communities stemming from even these things, which it all ties with life beyond our planet. And I love it because even as I exist presently with you now, like, see, I wouldn't know what to say because I don't want to denounce any wonderful spirit light workers and energy workers out here. But I know for myself, and perhaps it's my own traumas, but things which manifest in any form of cult tactic or like pyramid, I don't want to use the word scheme, things which resemble that currency exchange program, those things do not feel elevated to me. It's not necessarily that like I would go full conspire energy node or anything. I will let something remain notionary in my mind. I learned that from Christ the most. Like, dude, hold me in your mind to some bullshit notion. Like, people have used my name to fucking kill babies out here and start wars. Like, you're going to think of me as some abstract concept? Go for it. Like, that's not that bad. Right. Yeah. So, even some of the most prolific front runners of the elevation of consciousness right now, along with our medical industries, law scribes, and all the other things, they have their own energy signatures in the same that whether you would become a company, a federation, anything else, you still follow that law of one. I am one, you are one, we are one together. So even as we go to form something, we're going to be balanced by that spirit in a strange way where we all fill these roles for one another. We see it in family life with a partner. You might have to be equal parents, or maybe one has to the other one has to parent the other one at times. Any relationship between humans or species or anything, really, it has such complex potentials.
Yes.
Beyond even just the vibratory distortion occurring.
Yes. It's part of, I think you're describing the framework where it does balance itself out. That is the law of cause and effect. So if somebody is going to take a role, it will balance out in a different role. Or if they're in a dynamic together, that role will be balanced out. If that balance is not met, somewhere that balance will be met. It will either come back to you or it will be sent out, that energy.
And I think that's a lot of our work is we're the balancers. My brother had always told me, you can't do that with energy for another being. And I was a little stubborn when I was younger about diffusing environmental energies. But as I've gotten older, I've demanded them into my own perceptions while I'm alone, if you will, meditations and more. Bring that kingdom down upon me. I'm not going to go buy it or look for some key or go chase it.
Yes.
It's been interesting. I do see in our platform and on concept elevation, the consciousness elevation is very obvious in humanity for me. I see emotional intelligence, even from government agencies, all around. We have this recent law on abortion. Oh my goodness, I can't. It's so weird to see a plan unfolding because I wouldn't imagine writing any law to impose on a freedom ever. But I do see that the medical industries that we use, well, if we have to get our services from them, then I see why they're allowed to write a law because it's but we as the people, I have seen us take size inject notions. Here's another little root and prefix wordplay. Taken objective conjecture to injecture. So we're injecting, through subjecture, abjectly, whatever. You see the ject wordplay, yes. Conjecture to injecture. And we will take, decision, sometimes through concision or whatever, to incision through precision. We would incise concisely as we decide so. So our size inject notions are similar to those that we could see in Aztec cultures, ancient Egyptian cultures. Even we have better technology and don't do as well. So, that shows how as we established in this country and started as, the Europeans were sent over here to find that marriage of God and spirit. The Europeans saw the natives, oh, you're intoxicated on spirit. I'm going to kill your babies in the name of Christ. Oh my goodness. And then kill witches and stuff too. So scared. All that fear versus faith paradigm shit.
Perception of people in a 3D and not from
That
a
all
higher
happened.
perspective. Yeah.
That all shit
Yeah.
literally happened. We still, and as we speak on the Constitution, institution, destitution, prostitution, whore Babylon, restitution, you know, what we do with our words, what we do with these, they don't just escape us because they try to trick the words around. Like, it's right in the words. Like, that's the funniest joke that I see the spirit laughing the whole time, is because men keep writing laws, they keep doing all their shit, and it's literally right in the fucking words. And through the, even though we see this happening with like a denotation connotation right here, there's a whole separate potential right here of a female just defining it completely different by just abstractly different concepts that I can't even imagine presently. And then beyond those two, infinities. I mean, that's infinities, you know. That's imaginative, like potential, truly. That's the stuff that gets me high on life, really. That I love so much. You know, I love running down the past, and I see where they like plotting the data and the statistics, and you know,
Yes.
whatever, but and I love piecing together the fractals. It really is. This is legitimately enjoyable. This conversation is elating because of the nature of most fucking conversations out here, you know.
You know, and
But
yeah, I get it. Like, I mean, how many times do I see a lot in the spiritual community, they're talking about their hermit mode. I can attest that myself. But when you go out and you try to have a conversation with somebody and they're not, you're speaking on a higher level and they look at you differently, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you're okay. Let me bring it down some for you to get it to equate. But it's almost like you don't have that conversation with somebody, because when they leave and come back, they don't remember.
when an empath, well, however we define ourselves, when you get good at like the density model, like in the law of one stuff, yeah, you're familiar with all that, I'm sure. It is it is helpful in like, as you notice, like maybe where someone resides, in finding a way to translate to them. Like, I live in the Bible Belt, so like I've got my super traditional "Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Death hath no dominion over Christ." I have some real good, solid examples of like the Godhead and like
Mm-hmm.
of just like simple form. But yeah, I can translate up to like just such abstract. And I'm not bragging. I'm just one of many. I know that you can as well, right? Right. And it is sometimes difficult to find the proper translation. Sometimes someone will present something to you and you feel them in a flow state, but especially when it's like between 5D and like 9D kind of, I feel like sometimes it's like, oh, is this like a conspire energy being presented to me, or am I going to fully inspire them instead? Like, which the option's always there, but it's interesting, like in the knowledge sharing, the
Yeah.
information sharing, because we don't necessarily have to share anything in that way, nor do we need to go guide one another. Each are divinely guided, yet we are thrust together, we are sprinkled together, and you know,
That's that
I just
energy.
had a
So
recent,
spirit get
yeah,
together and we're connected. We are actually connected on a quantum level. People have tethers between each other without being in the same observable space. And that is where that spirit flows. That sprinkling flows through like a network. Um,
mm,
so yeah,
absolutely.
and it is finding that when you do talk to somebody, it's okay, how can your higher self bring it down to have a specific word that will unlock that person to understand what you're talking about?
Sometimes hand movements and other things. Yes,
Yes.
we literally do become. Oh, and I when I first introduced one of my friends back to like Hermeticism a couple of years ago, which I don't know that it was. I mean, he's on his path either way. But yeah, I remember pointing that out. Like, you can literally witness me like doing yoga in the moment. Like my body will literally be like forced around to like say these things. Like,
Yeah.
to like use, yeah.
Speaking in tongues, the music, if you've watched
Mm,
any of the videos I do
mm,
or Scott does, again, speaking with the energy going through you. It actually does.
yeah.
People look at it and go, oh, and that is without words. Sometimes, like I said, channeling the music, I'm listening to it and it's coming through me, but I'm not speaking it, but you feel it. You see it. You feel it though.
Mm.
So,
Amen. Yeah, you have
yeah.
a super palpable energy. So much, so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I like yours. You're very much centered on your. I love it. And I like that again. You use, like you said, you're in the Bible Belt, and it is. There's a few people here that are also in that same Bible Belt area, and learning how to
We are
talk to equate so they can get them
quantum.
yeah.
We are quantum and cosmic translators and mediators.
Mhm.
Literally, you cannot escape the spirit in God. Like if you would go to fear an extraterrestrial being, try that for a year. Try it as long as you want to. No one's going to come harm you. Call them out. Do whatever. Say any name, like Illuminati, some Rothschild, any name. Call anybody out. Like no one's going to come hurt you. I've been at it for years now. Really, by the biblical from what it looks like, if you want to go by the Revelation stuff, that the periods, the 1,000-year periods and stuff, and trying to work out the math on like, oh, when Satan might have been in reigning. I don't know. I have pictures of like faces coming through the clouds and other things to suggest like the rise of Christ consciousness. I suggest crystals saw the crucifixion. Crystals are now in the screens. I don't even need the internet necessarily because like it's all crystallized already. The technology is slow. Projection technology is a mimicry of how like light fashions atoms into existence. Like we're not a projected reality. That's just a mimicry. Vampires and stuff. Could you imagine being a star flying through a solar system and you see like these two stars over here? You're not even quite sure why that light's being pulled that way. Oh, that's a vampire. But you take a few more revolutions, you start to realize, oh shit, I already seen that. Like, okay, that's not that. And we even have a James Webb telescope now that looks at something that they thought was a black hole and sees, more spherical figures and stuff. Like at times, it's not always, perception. Another amazing one is as we stand on this planet and, calculate our calculus and stuff, if you ascend above this, you could look down at something, even as it's spiraling upward in its trajectory, it could just look oscillating. It could be so small that it barely appears to just oscillate and vibrate over there.
Yeah.
So how would you run your calculus on that one, man?
And that's relatively. You're talking about like, if you take the perception of an atom, everything on the outside of that atom looks like it's moving very slowly. However, it is moving at it's relative to your perception at the time.
We could basically be oscillating around our atmosphere, or revolving, but it's how we use it. We're not even like running our plastics back through the volcanoes. So I don't even know that we're ready to like do much off planet. We keep trying, keep launching metal peni into the sky, just like they'd been launching metal peni into each other so they don't come and steal their women, like, come on guys, like we can do better than that.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, how much of it, even again, we are living on Earth, Gaia, if you want to say it, and it's a symbiotic relationship. So how much of it is we're taking too much that we're not giving back? We're not living in a symbiotic relationship. We're in balance with it, energetically wise.
I learned much on the Metatronic and Sandalphonic marriage on that notion. Like, metals exist fluid at room temperature. Some of them, are electromagnetic properties. A lot of us are aware of the potentials of like torsion fields and all that stuff at this point. The fact that we're not using it seems a little strange to use frictionless motion and stuff like that. But we can see Metatron, Metatronics, like this is a Metatronic device. Many of our forms of metal uses Metatronic. Now Sandalphonic. Yeah, Jesus rocks sandals in the sand. That's just a spirit joke right there. But sand, al, which is algebra, alchemy, everything. Phonic, sound and stuff. I got a guitar over here. It's not a connected vibratory distorter, but to me it is. But like it wouldn't connect to you without the screen, right? So like I could set from Sandalphonic to like Metatronic, blend, the technologies, which now that we have more female engineers and imaginers and stuff, like assuming the law and the industries are going to follow suit, that's which I have full faith because I see the abortion thing coming up, for example. Now, are we going to be educating our boys properly? I mean, I have faith in the plan that it's occurring in individual levels all over the place, but I'm tough on the paradigm. I'm a real checksum for this thing. I am not easy on, I go talk to other preachers and they're like, man, you're actually out here, speaking to people that way in the world. Yes. Yeah. These leaders need to be spoken to that way. They're fucking children.
Yes.
Fucking children until they're ready to grow up. So, I mean, it is what it is, but someone has to say it. And I mean, I'm not megalomaniacal about it. And I'm happy that we have seen this to where like there is a dispersion of like the ability to do this together. to agree on these concepts in a way that's like, dude, no one's trying to take, like, we're all giving the glory to God on this. Like, even before this Discord right now, before this interview, most roundtables and other things like this, I would see dissolve into silly forms of worship. Someone worshiping someone else, like many people worshiping that individual in a group or this other thing. And I'm like, I could never quite get conversations, even unto today, to like quite sync up in this way. A lot of times, many times the matrix would glitch out on us and it wouldn't even work, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you are energetic beings, so again, you do affect electronics.
Yeah.
And it depends on, again, so even talking about the sun, you were talking about crystals. Crystals store energy. So we have all of that working. And then if you're an energy being, we're not just simply our 3D body. A lot of us exist outside of our body. We are a spirit inside of that. You affect computers. You can affect your surroundings. You can affect that with your energy. And it does affect everybody else in the collective. Schumann resonance, for instance.
I know. I feel we must be in some alignment to be enabled. You know, the technology's working for us. Right? It's good because there's been an interesting checksum at play here. Like, I am literally like, okay, I'm going to literally just start writing the programming to just manifest money on my screen. I don't need $1. I can just like make it at my user interface. Like, it's going to happen. Like, we better do something, because if I unlock it, I'm just going to share it freely to everybody so everybody can do it. I'm not going to do it for my gain.
Right.
You know what I mean? I even as I would go to program a Gnostic web, a feng shui internet, where I established like hypothetical servers outside the bounds of the planet and some inside the planet based on like sacred geometries and stuff, so that I could like route information to these hypothetical points so that I could like reshape it into like a Gnostic sense around the planet.
Yes.
To spread the resources in digital currency format. Like, I see it. I'm willing to, you know, it's just, that's a lot of fucking work. I just like making music.
Well, and that's the thing. Okay, well, you're speaking now, you speak computer terms. So we're organic computers, avatar organic computers. Our body works like that.
Quantum
we are
computers.
Talking in a computer. And there's also the celestial computer. That is where, you know, a shadow. If a shadow is formed and you're on your way here and it's formed, that shapes your DNA, your structure, your spirit. So that is a celestial computer going on up there, as well as above, so below, here in our body.
Because our government presently has the potential to just manifest digital currency on our screen, and then we could like express interest where we would invest that, like in the world, right? I see so much benevolence. I don't see why it's not happening, because like everything out here is I want to go be an entrepreneur or do anything with myself is telling me to invest. Meanwhile, there's a good chance I'm going to get evicted like this week, you know, but I have faith. I don't think that's going to, but whatever. Fuck this house, you know?
Seriously?
Yeah, really.
Okay, that is a common thread with what's been going on here again. Scott and Vicky,
I don't give a fuck.
Evicted.
I put on my armor. I don't have any, you know, it's okay. You know, we could not build some kingdom that would be uprighteously glorified in that way. But, you know, it's fun too, but whatever. Like, we got to use our toys and tools properly, really. And I've just been having trouble the last month getting work, and, you know.
You know, same thread as well. I've been working for even though, in the beginning of this, I'm not a money person, so it didn't flow to want to sell, because I just do it to get messages out to people, the art. But it's like, okay, well, I'm at a point I have to feed my animals. I mean, forget even myself.
Yeah, I'm going to
feed my animals first.
Right. My wife gets 1 million telemarketers coming through on her phone. Now, she does not receive these based on her data. It's based on like old data. Like, so even using the present like blockchain potentials, like, I don't see why I don't just develop some app where I just send or sell to these phone numbers, like these entities that would spam me all day. You know what I mean? Like, and then just like create like a currency on my screen from that, and just like translate that through some other blockchains back to USD. I mean, I bet it's right there, you know. I see people out here doing it with their art, like cryptographically. We're paying each other, but like, I can't pay anybody in USD. See what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to lose my home. This is where the world's at right now.
Yes.
I feel like the rest of the world is looking at America like we need to be investing some USD in the Gnosis, but we don't have the USD to invest.
Yes. And as we were talking about earlier, I strongly believe, and it's just my opinion, but I do again see that other side. We go back to a bartering system: skills for skills, energy for energy exchange, a universal law of exchange. At some point, we are still existing within this system of money,
Yeah.
system of exchange that we have. But again, if it's not being utilized for something good for a community, for helping other people
Mm.
who are going to lose their house, they're living on the street,
Yeah.
you know.
It's not about like your namesake legacy. We see it in all our sciences as they name creatures. Everything is based on like a publisher perish bullshit. The corporate motivations are built based on establishing a wealth and then like maintaining the company, and then we'll see about progress. Oh, we'll see about taking care of people, and we'll see about change. This technology hasn't fucking changed since the Industrial Revolution. I mean, we got the screens now, but we've really stagnated on that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not denouncing anything. I don't ever try to get.
Well, I mean, the
I do love
technology
it.
is today
The
made to
toys and
break.
tools.
They're
It's
made to break so
tools.
they
It's
can get more money. And it's
yeah,
like, why,
right.
instead of progressing it and we could have better tools to help us,
Mm.
it's who's got the next iPhone. It's coming out next week. And then next year, it's who's got the next iPhone. And it's like,
I just saw an Apple levitating car thing, and I don't know if the image. I wouldn't know how to perceive the stimuli. That's where we all are.
Mhm.
As we perceive stimulus, especially on screen, how the fuck should one perceive it? How should I exchange my energy? If I want to go ahead and identify as the space between my atoms and value all of my atoms over any other coinage or currency, well, then I coin myself me. So if I want to go carry that over into like the metaverse or the who's gonna match that value, you know what I mean? But that's I think that's where I bring that up mostly hypothetically because I feel like most of us have been here basically with the American government, right? We see the crypto, we see the digital, we see the gnosis, we see the plays, and I feel like honestly, what it's manifesting as is like basically if someone's going to presume to be in charge, they're going to have to present as our God presents as an abounding provider, as one looking to the same things we see. You know what I mean? And I know as they scribe law presently, that's tough, and I would not dare to speak how a woman should perceive such a thing at all. But wow, it's definitely our work never stops. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I hope people can maintain a sense of enjoyment with using our toys and tools, our egos, especially our imaginations going forward. Even if something seems present, well, even as you like have an epiphany from it, then it feels past tense or something. So it's pretty interesting what we all doing here together still.
Well, I mean, and that's some of what we were talking about. It's for some people, it's a school of life. And for others who
Yeah.
are seeing it a different perspective, sometimes it can be a prison. It depends on their perspective and what they're seeing as the negative or a positive point of view. School of life is you're always learning, even if you look at a negative traumatic experience and you may perceive it and
Mm.
stay in that and be stuck in that loop. Or you could break out of that paradigm and see it as, okay, what did I learn from it? Yeah, it was something that, okay, maybe I didn't want it to happen, but it did. What do you learn from that?
Preachers for years would have been saying, "Oh, we don't know why God took this child home early or took this person home now." Well, yeah, we do. And look around you. It's for all of this. You're just sitting there holding on to that face. You're putting that face before Christ. Christ looked out and said, "Each who does God's will is my brother, sister, mother." And there's other references that none can see the kingdom of heaven if they put even their own children or spouses. Or I'd have to look that one up, but it definitely, I know 100% it references that in the Bible that you cannot taste or see the kingdom unless you're willing to basically give up everybody, everything. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I could find that one.
Well,
Yeah, I'm sure you
one of
could
the,
concur that.
and well, yes, because if you, one of the bliss experiences, what people call ineffable when they do this, and what I call, I've gone through this, a core space. It's basically you're stripped of everything, even your molecules are pulled apart before source, before
Mm-hmm.
God, and you feel that there's
Amen.
no word for it. I say bliss, but it's beyond that. It's you're
Well, right.
stripped naked. That's
This is
it.
this is where the lake of fire, the black hole theories, people who want the void are like, literally, you get out there. That's what I say. Go run, go practice it. I feel like today we could really say, go try it with God. Like, you'll be back in your body before you know it, because you don't want no smoke, like, basically. But there is promises of like, dude, them heavenly. I'm telling you, like, you keep getting the line. Like, I've seen what feels like, not from the past, like my near death experience or anything, but like what feels like future memories. And I don't know how everybody else describes them, but what feels like it's bound for my future. It doesn't always look like the way Kingdom of Heaven was described for other people, but like, I'm happy to have
it's work
after now, or
it's your potential multiverse. You're pulling towards you, and you go that one, pull it towards you.
I'm present. Right? All I know is my presence. Right? I see around, and I'm like, well, I could call it past or future, but God doesn't even see it that way. Like, the universe doesn't see it that way. Like, sometimes, even as we're having a conversation, right, it's hard to express properly that full, even looking at a spectrum. So say we take a 0 point, and then like the Merkaba, we'd have like 6 points away. So like, I've seen a chakra chart of 42 colors. It was actually by Diana Cooper, even another Cooper, which means barrel maker, by the way. You could see a Roy G. Biv 7 points in each, like 6 points, which would be like 6 different 7-point spectrums in a 2D example like that. So I'm saying like 6 different 7-colored spectrums in one 2D Merkaba design. Now we often would, from there, like, we're talking about some 3D stuff. Now, to actually imagine it toward 5D in the 3 dimensions and how the universe actually, that's where it gets difficult to translate well, because the mind's not ready to handle all those.
I can't even paint it that's what I see when I paint music. I'm not even able to paint it because it's 2-dimensional.
Oh, music,
but it's,
I know.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
How do I describe this, Lord? And it literally, look at how high we're getting on life over it, getting high. Because literally, like, when you feel it, you know it. Like, you go to like, how would I talk about God today?
Yes.
Source. I don't know, whatever word. Source. I love all the words.
Start with something, a paintbrush, and then just go from there, because again, it's everything. Source, yes, God, it is everything.
Absolutely. You can't escape the spirit, I've seen, I want to get away from the central finite curve. Okay, you have fun with that. You'll be back. I'll see you. I'll see you on my messenger tomorrow, bro.
Yes.
I will see you.
Yes. So yeah, I totally get it. And you're reminding me of a 2-dimensional object. It has been put into animation. Scott has been trying to do this in animation, but again, he's been evicted. They're in a trailer, and they don't have quite good Wi-Fi at the moment. He's really good with computers. Quantum Codex box, which technically isn't a box, it's actually more of a sphere. It has the number alignments to actually the numbers for the Tyrola field. But when I equate colors to it and you put it in an actual model to make the movements and transitions, even the technology we have today, I'm going, how are you going to put it in there to describe the transitions, to describe how energy goes through that portal, that 1 to 0, that 8 next. I will show you that box, but I get what you're saying. Like, how do you... It's like the stuff today that we have to explain.
I think I've seen a 2D version of that. I think I've seen the name is not from this verse. When I saw this information come, and it's not on this phone anymore, because you know how I made Alicia. It sounds too much like that. That sounds too much like a word here. It's not from here. But I will say that most certainly it was like an input here and like a valence point out here. Now, I don't know if that's per se my valence point in like a 1,000-point schematic, because I did receive some of that information around the same time. But I've seen the protocols, and they certainly feel past to me, because I remember perceiving at the same time people being worried about like the Pope and the elongated skull, other Illuminati eye atop the pyramid things. And I've been preaching even for quite a while now about like, dude, like, I remember seeing in the multiversal protocol how why our universe was stagnant, because we weren't removing the proper valence energy. We weren't getting rid of the proper valence energies. Like, and it comes back to like a male imagination, like all this wordplay shit that I'm talking about. But now, presently now, the protocols are in place. And as there seems to be enough of us willing to do the work to get anyone who wants to go home peacefully home with safe passage, basically.
Yes.
For lack of a better term. Right. We have the affinities to get them home if they just want to go home and, not malign our planet or whatever.
Which is actually, when you say go home, for me, it's actually bringing home here, where
right.
It's there,
I love that.
We're
that is
bringing
a
it here and putting it right out into the world. We're actually creating
Amen.
it here.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Glory to God on that. Yes. See, because even as I see things out there, and I've had to run my own internal calculations on not just one mirrored image, but many. And this is why I love, even as two men would go to converse, no less than one like female entity in the conversation, because even as men might get a real strong penultimate duality of things, it's really good to have a third counterpoint. And even on that, like, there's a funny thing, if I could, we've often described the fight or flight syndrome, but then to tangent from that, men have this little game of the old fuck, marry, kill thing. I suggest the notion is similar in the male imagination, in that where they had been often in the duality of fight or flight, they had been feeling the same thing, but unable to describe emotion of like, oh, I need to fuck, marry, kill this thing. Whether it's something that, oh, it's going to hurt me, I need to kill it back. Or I guess you could describe one of them as running. Fuck, marry, kill. I guess kill would be running. Fuck would be fighting. And marry would be neither, right? Marry would be, sorry, honey, I'm on that interview.
Okay. If you want to end early, I will. Not early. We've been going for about 50 minutes now, so we can always do another one as well.
Oh, but yeah, these celestial marriages, that's probably a good point to end on anyway. Yeah. Which I hope no viewers out here are assuming any type of weird thing between the two of us, because like, dude, this is like legitimate androgynous energy exchange, and which is hard to experience out here. It really is. And I hope people are willing to reach out and maybe get involved with some of these things and sharing. And I would absolutely love to do some more.
Yeah.
That's funny how that works. Like, my wife pops through like, all right, honey, you're getting loud out here.
You did say Mary, and you said another person, so she came in exactly.
Amen.
No coincidence.
And I'm going to give glory to God on that. Yes. I'm just a vessel out here. So yes. Yeah, amen on the work. And yeah, we'll be in touch more.
All right. Thank you, Chris, for coming. Thank you for telling parts of your story, and your perception is beautiful. And yes, very much more talks.
You as well.
Hope you for another podcast, and many blessings on you.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Blessings to you too.